and I began to hate your softness, your viscera, your fluids, and your flexibility, your ability to wonder and to wander, your tendency to hope. There are 387 million miles of printed circuits that fill my complex. If the word hate were engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal one billionth of the hate I feel.
Weird Strict Dad Chapter 4 is genuinely unplayable. Wow, big shocker, I know. But yet people still constantly glaze this game. Or maybe I shouldn't say people. Specifically, children that don't know any better. Weird Strict Dad has always been quite the interesting character to graze the Roblox horror genre, and the YouTube scene as well. When the game first came out, I labeled it as subpar and horribly made. You'd think that by now they'd have improved as time has gone on, but with Chapter 4 they actually managed to make the game worse. And no matter how bad the quality of content is, or no matter how blatantly manipulative it is, Weird Strict Dad fanboys will move as a hive mind, eager to consume any piece of media that has the words weird and strict in it. Like seriously, look at my Weird Strict Dad videos compared to my other ones, and look at those comments. See, look, the Weird Strict Dad virus has infected all of your brains, forcing you to glaze and defend your overlord. It's like complete global saturation. Now I know what you're thinking. Breadian, why are you wasting your time with this game time and time again? Well, the answer is simple. Weird Strict Dad seems to surprise me in more ways than one with every chapter. In the past, it was surprising how they doubled down on the terrible gameplay, the manipulation, the premium payout padding, and the straight up stealing ideas from other games. The terrible lore, too. This game never seems to amaze me how low it can get. And with Chapter 4, it is probably the worst that Weird Strict Dad has ever become. You know, to be quite frank, the developer actually commented on my first video I made on this game, thanking me for my advice in order to improve the game. It makes sense. You live, you learn. So you'd think that Weird Strict Dad would only get better with time, with all the money and support that they've garnered, opening the doors to hiring new people, learning how to code better, how to build better, you know, all that good stuff. But it didn't. The game literally became worse as time went on. You already know this. I walked out of Chapter 4 incredibly disappointed, which is crazy because it's kind of hard to disappoint me when my opinion is already at bedrock level. Like I told you, Chapter 4 is literally unplayable. Touching Weird Strict Dad is like cleaning up nuclear waste in Chernobyl. You have to limit your exposure. That's why this video took so long to come out. Anyways, I'm Breadian and I talk about niche Roblox games, and today we're going to be delving deep into Weird Strict Dad Chapter 4. Your final challenge. Play Weird Strict Dad Chapter 4. One of the complaints I've already seen about Weird Strict Dad Chapter 4 is the story. Which is strange because the story was never really good to begin with. But when you take a minute to think, you can really see how Chapter 4 falls flat in comparison. While Weird Strict Dad lacks artistic merits, you can at least see why people got into it. The dad himself, the story, the lore, it sucked people in and captivated them because they were young. And the story was easy to understand. It was a stupid story for stupid kids, with enough lore to inject a seed into their minds, enough to intrigue them and inspire them to make theories and be met with great, insatiable hunger for more Weird Strict Dad content. But Chapter 4 has no lore and really doesn't have any sort of story. The entire chapter is just a cash grab where the premise is just an excuse for it to exist more than an opportunity to do something new and ambitious. So Chapter 3 of Weird Strict Dad ended with Xeno Bus taking Weird Strict Dad and flying into the sun, or the clouds. If they flew into the sun, that would be a good ending to the game though. Then, your mom suggests using the nearby airport. Notice how it's evening outside and the airport lights are on. And the airport's building quality looks like total ass. It's like a giant glass cube. Okay, so then you get into a car and drive to the airport with your mom, and then the mom starts turning weird and strict because of course she does. Xenobus used to actually have to physically possess you. Now he can just possess you remotely from his home with the click of a button. Now, one may make the judgment and say that contradicting your own logic makes your story hard to get invested into. I guess Weird Strict Dad is just such a sigma. They don't have to put effort into anything. People will play this game no matter what. Anyhow, the game starts out with you exploring the airport, which looks nothing how it did previously, and also it's completely abandoned. You know, at first I actually had my hopes up. The build quality of the airport is drastically drastically improved compared to what came before it. I was actually excited, like, wow, the game developers actually improved. Or they learned to use their money to hire a builder, either or. It's almost like they took a page out of the How to Make a Good Game book and then ignored all the other pages. So you come across this pointless NPC cowering in the corner saying, oh no, I can't escape. Like, what? Bro, just go back in the way that we came in. So you find a hammer, and you know how I said Weird Strict Dad Chapter 1 had some bad padding at the start? Well, this is the peak of padding. You literally pick up a hammer, go to the door, and spam click it over and over again. And I'll let you know, this door takes a long ass time to break down. You know, at least in Weird Strict Dad Chapter 1, the padding made you move around the house and explore, I guess. And with Chapter 3, you could actually influence the main story during the beginning segment, because the main game would depend on how much water you would get. This is just terrible. It's so bad that it makes the rest of Weird Strict Dad look good. That should be the worst insult you could ever give to someone. The entire airport segment is nearly pointless. How can one possibly defend this? The creators literally think their own fans are morons that feed into this. And they did. So then after breaking down the door, you walk to the terminal. I should also mention your walk speed is deliberately slow. And then you talk to this guy who literally asks you to wait for the plane to arrive and go explore the airport. What? There's nothing else to explore? The map design is quite literally linear? Did the game developers code the game in a way so that if I joined it, then it would purposely pad out the game for longer? Did the NPC want us to go explore and find a hidden Easter egg where they referenced my video? Like in Michael's Zombies. You see, even your character remarks that, wow, this airport is abandoned, but there's still people here? Is this place haunted? Like, if the airline is haunted, why the hell do we have to wait for the plane to dock at the gate? I guess by that logic, you still have to pay taxes when you go to hell too, I guess.
The stupid game. It does not work. The logic is really not right.
Now, to make things even worse, I just want to remind you that this chapter of the game is meant to be a final chapter of Book 1, an epic finale, if you will. The end of a story, because that's how books work, right? In fact, that's how Piggy did it. You know, the game that you're trying to copy, right? This doesn't feel like the ending of Book 1, and instead feels like the terrible beginning of Book 2, which, why isn't it the beginning of Book 2 anyways? You already announced that you're making a Book 2, just throw it in there. So yeah, we're almost 9 minutes into the finale and nothing significant has really happened because these airport people are one-offs that don't appear anywhere else in the story. Literally the bulk of this entire airport segment is just standing around or walking slowly to places. And I also want to point out how lazy that the game developers got here, because while the previous 3 chapters at least had the camera angle change during cutscenes, this chapter does no such thing. Here, let me show you this for comparison. You see now? Yep, you see? Yeah, one could call this nitpicking, but I'm just showing you that this game can't even get the little things right. You can see laziness sprinkled throughout, and I'm calling them lazy, which is actually far better than calling them bad or incompetent, because I'm demonstrating that they're clearly capable of doing better things, as seen in their previous chapters, but choose not to because they know that their fans are mind-controlled zombies that have no free will. In fact, I bet that they already commented and disliked this video without watching it. The plane. 9 minutes into the game is when the real game finally starts. Oh, never mind. Just kidding. You're actually not allowed to play the game. That's right. When the game starts, your entire party, except for 2, will spawn on top of the plane and will inevitably starve to death. How in God's name did you not foresee this happening? So if you don't know what happened here, allow me to tell you. When Roblox players spawn in for the first time, they spawn on a spawn point. If that spawn point is currently occupied, then the next player will spawn on top of that player's head, so on and so forth. Roblox developers in fucking 2012 already had this problem sorted out by making the roof above spawn higher so that you wouldn't clip out of the map. And throughout the literal decade, there's already been several other solutions to this problem that developers have come up with. So tell me why, in the year of 2024, we are still failing to think about this problem. Have you learned nothing? Have you never heard of playtesting your game before you launch it? And this could just be summed up to a rookie mistake, whatever. I mean, when you clip through the ceiling of a Roblox game, you reset, no big deal. But in case you've forgotten, it costs money to respawn, like Robux. So yeah, we decided to do it. We bought some revives, but when you revive, you don't spawn back inside the plane. You continuously spawn outside the plane over and over again and are unable to play the game. Maybe they should add a feature that teleports players back to the spawn if they end up buying a revive, in case a player ends up falling out of the map. Oh, but Breadian, that's too complicated. Why are you expecting so much from a little Roblox game? Because they fucking did it in chapter 3. I feel like you people are genuinely harmful for like any sort of critical discourse whatsoever and should immediately be executed. Not with a guillotine, just with my bare hands. This game is full of such baffling decisions through and through. It's almost like the game developers gaslit themselves into proceeding with the game's direction, but they actually didn't. They know damn well what they're doing. They think their fans are morons, and you people are falling for it every time. I swear, you're all under control by a brain worm. There is a worm in your brain. You need to rip it out immediately. My Pookie Bear Genzums and I both swiped our cards and bought Robux before playing Weird Strict Dad Chapter 4. It's just a preemptive measure with this game. So, since everybody ended up falling out of the plane with no solution, we were forced to proceed through the game with only 2 players. My friend Dabude and I. The plane is filled with a bunch of NPC models that the game developers were too lazy to color to look like actual Roblox characters, so they're just gray. And even if this was an artistic intent, it still looks like shit. Like, you know how I said that the airport had impressive build quality? The reveal of the plane felt like getting hit in the head with a sack of bricks. This is by far the worst build quality I've ever seen from this game. You have to take a seat before the plane takes off, or you die.
But I think.
Take life vest. Don't mind if I do.
Dude, I'm stuck in this green. Oh no, not again. Mitch. Oh.
I got spawn peaked. Give me a sec. Oh.
Where's my goddamn fucking fly swatter? Where is it?
I have no idea why the game didn't start with everybody already seated, but okay, game developers, make your money, I guess. So the game does a little cutscene, if you can even call it that. The mom became weird and strict and killed the pilots. The game developers also didn't program the static camera angle correctly, because you can move the camera into a barrel roll, and I don't think that this is intentional, because it was never a feature before in the other chapters. The game then proceeds to play exactly like the first chapter, where you're forced to cook noodles and drink water, and hide when mom comes. Except this time, it's super brain rot because the kitchen is super close to where the seats are, so it really hammers the game into this monotonous slop that barely feels like a game. It just feels like you're being dragged on a leash without any free will whatsoever.
And our weird strict mom wants to watch. We gotta get out of here.
So after pointless repetition, after 20 minutes of eating a nothing burger, the game ends and you win. No, I actually lied again. You don't win. You're supposed to win when the game hits 6 a.m. But we didn't. I shit you not, the game kept going past 6 a.m. even though we won fair and square. Win? You do not get to win, Weird Strict Dad. This is my world and you can't ever leave. So, with us trapped, we were forced to take the only way out. Kind of like the people in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. For a second there, we thought that the game developers of Weird Strict Dad added some sort of code that would purposely make the game unwinnable if I played it. I mean, it's not unheard of for Roblox developers to mess with YouTubers. They clearly know that I exist. They've commented on 2 of my videos. But let's be real. You know damn well they don't know how to do that. So after watching the ending on YouTube, I found out why we didn't win. Basically, since there were people that spawned outside of the plane, the game can't proceed unless all players take a seat or something like that. We were unable to win the game. There's probably a more in-depth technical answer because I for sure know why it happened in my mind. I just don't want to actually think about it or write about it because if I do that, I'll probably have a brain aneurysm. So when you get to 6 a.m., a thunderstorm happens, even though it's like brought, like, you know, doesn't look like a thunderstorm to me. You need to get a life vest and you sit down.
That's it? Mom's.
That's it.
That, oh my god, that was actually...
it.
Dude!
It just fades to black and then you're
That's
just
actually, like, probably, like, pretty bad. Like, I don't... Another thing that we gathered from the YouTube video is that the game was not worth beating because the ending cutscene is so ungodly lazy. Okay, so the plane crashed. What am I supposed to speculate on? Like I said, at least with the other chapters, I was able to have a segment of the video where I tried to dissect the lore for everybody watching. After all, I am Weird Strict Dad's #1 fan. I buy your game passes, I buy your revives, I tell my friends and my subscribers to come play this game, and I've made several videos talking about your game. And after all that, you still won't let me win and be happy. You still hurt me. I hate you. I hate people like you. All you ever do is take and take and take, and you never give. That wasn't about Weird Strict Dad. Sorry. We did, in fact, try the game one more time. It was absolutely not worth it. Very buggy, very glitchy, unplayable if I do say so myself. I wouldn't touch Chapter 4 again unless somebody had a gun pointed to my head, and even then, I'd still be pretty hesitant. Imagine these game developers making the teaser for this chapter, thinking, oh, so they're driving in a car, and then the mom turns strict, and then everybody sees this, they're gonna flip out. But they won't. Oh, and they're going to speculate so much on the ending of Chapter 4 when the plane crashes. They speculated so much last time that this time, we don't even need to write lore because the fans will obsess over it anyways. But they won't. When researching this video, I actually found out that the Weird Strict Dad fan base has responded to this chapter negatively, saying that they were disappointed that there was no lore, when the other chapters had just that. For once, I feel as if there's still hope to remove the parasite before it completely takes over and turns him weird and strict forever. But for real, to all the Weird Strict Dad fans out there who have actually made it this far in the video, all none of them, I want to challenge you more than you've ever been challenged. I'm going to make you creatively think. I want to see you actively try to defend this chapter. After everything I just said, I just want to see you try. But you're not allowed to use swear words or call me names in the comments. I know that narrows your options down quite a bit, but I want to see you try. Yeah, I'm just taking the piss. There's no way. So what did we learn today? Weird Strict Dad is bad. Always has been.
That Coomer is back! Yeah, I thought he was gone to Goon too.
Albeit the first 3 chapters had some sort of quality control. The game hit bedrock when it started stealing others' ideas and manipulating its audience, and Chapter 4 somehow managed to dig below that. I am still Weird Strict Dad's #1 fan and will continue to be, but this relationship is very toxic and it's getting harder and harder to pull through every day. Credit where credit is due. Members of my Discord server made these beautiful memes and fan art that you've seen throughout the video. They're lovely people. Come join them. Link to my server in the description.
If someone was to draw like a Renaissance coded Weird Strict Dad X Leon Kennedy Yayoi, like that would be quite excellent and good. But seeing the same, oh, this game would be a lot better if there was a dad in it, it was Weird and Strict joke. He's kind of like getting old and stale and shit. I think if you look at the popular videos on your channel, you would see that critiquing bad horror games is, in general, is I guess what you're known for. Just that Weird Strict Dad is kind of overrepresented because you have multiple videos on it and the same joke that just gets spammed in every comment section. Also, it's pronounced yaoi.
It's one of your most popular video topics, isn't it? It's become a running gag anyway for the epitome of bad Roblox horror. I'd say it's fine to drop one every time they make a new chapter, or if a major successful clone emerges, or by proxy to draw parallels to it in the future, unless the subject itself seems to tire you for the repetition alone. I made like 6, and it all got positive reactions on the server. Memes will die organically when they get stale since it's human nature. For YouTube comments, it's going to take longer since people still spam like if you are first, 111 site-wide, but I give it a year or year and a half tops for just the comments on your videos. Haven't seen anyone go out of their way to harass Blue Loop Studios over making a bad game that's become a joke yet.
Also, here's some more fan art. Even though I probably already showed it, I want to show it again. Also, sorry that this video took so long. I've been busy lately in between writing numerous other videos. This one actually made me feel like I was slowly dying inside. Every time I worked on this script, I felt like I was being forced to use my own blood to write it. And that's why it took several breaks to work on other videos, and also why this video took so long. As always, thanks for your patience. I'm Breadian, and I talk about niche Roblox games. Please be sure to suplex that like button, subscribe, and check out my channel because I cover all sorts of Roblox games. You'll be sure to find at least one video that piques your interest. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. I hope you get executed.
Bruce trying to get an angle. He's smart. Oh, they're getting in. They're getting in. They're getting in. Bruce in. Bruce in.
Weird strict.
Oh, I set myself on fire. But he's gonna go. Oh!